Welcome to Garfield County. Well, what used to be Garfield County about like 130 years ago. So you can see that sign behind me there. It says Finney County, and right in front of me is Gray County. And so we're on the, county line between those two counties. And this is where Garfield County, the southern border of Garfield County, used to be. It's a fascinating story about a county seat war, about a county being too small, about the early days of Kansas when counties were being formed. And so the beginning of it starts with two towns that were fighting for the county seat. So I'll tell you a little bit about the history of those early days, and we'll go visit those first two old towns first. I believe they're ghost towns now. And then we'll see what else is in the former Garfield County. There's not much population here anymore. It's now a township of Garfield Township, and there's about 300 people that live in the entire township. So let me tell you a little more about that history, give you the background, and then let's go see what we can find. This area is formed as settlers moved west, taking advantage of the Homestead Act. Before Garfield County was created, most of the area was called Buffalo County, which was a large, unorganized area in western Kansas. Once a county reached 600 inhabitants, Kansas law required the county to be organized. When a county seat was chosen, it would receive government funds to build new buildings, create jobs, and guarantee the town's prosperity. Garfield County was created on March 5, 1887, named in honor of James A. Garfield, the 20th President of the United States, who was assassinated in 1881. Trouble began when a committee appointed to select the county seat chose the exact center of the county and laid out the town of Eminence. This act met with opposition from an older settlement named Ravanna, which assumed it would be selected. To settle the dispute, an election was called. Ravanna and Eminence became bitter rivals. The voting was held, and Ravanna and Eminence supporters hired the famous lawman Bat Masterson and 20 deputies from Dodge City to keep the peace during the first election in 1887. The presence of the gunmen kept the opposing parties from ending the election in a bloody gun battle. When the votes were counted, Ravanna had 467, Eminence 432. Immediately, accusations of ballot stuffing came from both sides, and Eminence filed a lawsuit. In the interim, Ravanna was established as the county seat. Immediately, things began to boom. In 1889, a new courthouse began construction. Across town, a two-story white stone schoolhouse was also built. In the meantime, the county seat lawsuit moved through the court systems to the Kansas Supreme Court, which transferred the county seat to Eminence on December 11, 1888. Eminence residents demanded the immediate removal of the county offices. However, when they attempted to remove the documents from the treasurer's office, Ravanna citizens blocked them. On August 3rd, the Kansas Attorney General notified General John Roberts to visit Eminence. Upon his arrival, he persuaded the citizens to do nothing further until the court met in September, when the matter might be peacefully adjusted. However, the wait dragged on, and bitterness remained between the two towns. Because Garfield County encompassed only 432 square miles, the Kansas Supreme Court dissolved it, finding that its boundaries has been drawn too small. This resulted in the land being annexed by Finney County in March 1893. Here's a map of what Garfield County used to be. I used the black marker there to outline it, so you can kind of see there's Finney County, Hodgman County, down here in the south. There's Gray County. We started down there kind of near the dot of Ratcliffe, but we're gonna head up to Ravanna first and then over to Eminence. And what's interesting, so there's what used to be the county, and here's a map from 1887 time, and all those towns are in the same places. There's Ravanna, but over here there's Creola. There's no Eminence. Loyal and Collier you'll see on both maps, but we got to figure out why there's Creola basically where Eminence is on this map. They're both there. So let's go to Ravanna first, then we'll head over to Eminence. There is not much out here, but this is where Ravanna would have been. And there is a couple indicators. You can see right over there some ruins. And then actually over here, some more significant ruins. And they got the gate open, so let's go walk over and check it out. John Bull gets credit for the creation of what was to be known as Ravanna. Initially called Bulltown, the name changed to Cowland eventually. Then it was changed again because the residents thought it sounded too indecent. They finally settled on the name Ravanna. In its heyday, there was a general store, cheese factory, bakery, hotels, banks, and restaurants. Ravanna had grown up to 700 people when it was the county seat. There had been anticipation of a railroad being laid down close to town, but it never came to fruition. Finally, the death knell was sounded with the closing of the post office in 1922. This next stop was not easy to find, so there's Ravanna, there's the remains of it. I was parked right over there. And I drove around and came down this, quote, road. And there's the Ravanna Cemetery. In terms of pioneer cemeteries, this is about as good as it gets. That's about the most modern one I've seen, 1941. And this is where Creola is on my map, which was the town here before Eminence. Not much here except for this farm and an older looking building with some stones. I don't think that was from the old town, but just down the road, this is where Eminence would have been. So in 1886, a grant was issued from the state to the Creola Town Company for the formation of a town. Originally, Creola was requested as the name, but they found that there was already another town in Kansas named that, so a community member suggested Eminence. They changed the town name in 1887. Eminence began printing a newspaper called the Garfield County Call. It had a population of 150, a dentist office, a hotel, grocery store, schoolhouse, and a general store. There were also daily stages to both Ingalls and Ravanna from Eminence. So you can see kind of where the town probably was near the water source here. And just down the road, this is Eminence Road, is the only thing remaining of the town is the cemetery. So upon the Kansas Supreme Court's decision that Eminence was the rightful county seat, Eminence purchased the courthouse and planned to move it to town. When the courthouse was halfway between the two towns, the people were surprised to find a large number of citizens from Ravanna riding towards them with rifles. Outnumbered and unarmed, the people of Eminence abandoned the courthouse, mounted their horses, and headed for home. Victoriously, the people of Ravanna hooked their horses to the courthouse and brought it back to where they believed it belonged. In the early 1900s, a man named F.T. Burnham proposed an idea to build a railroad that would stretch across western Kansas called the Nebraska, Kansas, and Southern Railroad. The railroad would have run through Eminence. The idea of the railroad brought a little hope for resurgence of the town, but unfortunately the project was dissolved. When the county was dissolved, many citizens here moved to larger towns. Even though much of the population was gone by 1910, post office remained until 1944. In 1947, what was left of the town site was torn out to make room for crops. So let's see what else is in the county. Let's go over here. We'll start down in Kalvesta, and then we'll make our way north and then west. This is Kalvesta. And you don't hear a lot about Kalvesta when you hear the story of what went on in Garfield County. They still got some stuff here. Kalvesta does. There's also some more stuff down that way, down the road I'll show you. But it's interesting because Kalvesta is way over here by Finney County, or by the, I guess, eastern edge of Finney County. And it was part of Garfield County. And it got developed, and the people that were living here were trying to convince, the state to create a new county of Finney County over there, which is right that direction. And the newspaper, the Hodgman County Herald or something like that, moved here, and they started trying to promote for the new county. And eventually it did happen. And they thought that Kalvesta here would be the county seat of the new county. There was supposed to be a railroad come through here, and it never did. And then there was a drought in 1889, and that really hurt the people that lived here. So it had a post office all the way till 1998, and could have been, something. Who knows? It could have been much bigger than it is. So you can still get some gas here. They got the Garfield Township Fire Department, so there's a little evidence of the history with Garfield, and they have this building over here. I don't know, that's a house or what that is. Looks like maybe it's just a office for this Pride Ag refueling area. So, pretty interesting kind of untold history of Garfield County. Just down the road from Kalvesta, they have a large machinery business down here, farm machinery, and the Kalvesta Methodist Church. Pretty interesting looking. I don't know if this might have been an old school. I guess I doubt it, but pretty interesting. They got some playground equipment, more modern looking over there. But something else here in Kalvesta that's got a few years age on it. It's like a nice little church. I haven't seen any humans today yet, but came upon some cattle here. So a little evidence of some life here in what used to be Garfield County. We're not far from the dot on the map that says Clawson. And Clawson had a post office for just a couple years, 1886 to 1888. It was also known as Parker's Grove. There's not much here left except for found one farm over here through the little scenic drive through the trees. Not too much in historic buildings. One older looking barn over here. Not much out here. Here's some birds. We're at the intersection of Lake and Byler and found an old school. And it's in really good shape. Looks like it's been refurbished a little bit. The roof. Very cool to find out here. Just randomly happened to stumble across it. 1889. Still would have been Garfield County. As I got to where it said the Finney State Lake and Wildlife Area, found this interesting, I guess you'd say bridge, like a old rock bridge. And it was pretty lengthy bridge and interesting area. This is a wildlife area for hunting and fishing. It's a dry lake, so there's only certain times of the year where there might be water in this area. So maybe there's water that comes up towards this so you can drive through it. The entire property is open to public hunting. So they say there's a lot of mule deer, white-tailed deer, pheasants, doves, rabbits, coyotes, raccoons, and then when water's present, there's ducks and geese. So it just seemed like a pretty interesting area to drive through. And I approached this stone. I thought there might be some sort of a marking on it, but there was nothing. Maybe it just was something that said the Finney Wildlife Area or Finney State Lake, but just a stone out here on the back roads. So as we leave the wildlife area, you'll see that's where Ravanna basically was. As we head west, we'll go past Eminence and up to check out Loyal. Nothing remains of the town of Loyal, which was right along the road here. You can imagine there used to be a decent little community. So it had 3 different names in its early history. It was first called Pattonville, and a post office was established in 1880, so that was before Garfield County existed. They changed the name to Pansy in 1881, and then in 1882 named it Loyal. So it was a popular trading point, community center for several years. Typical village of the pioneer days with a general store, blacksmith shop, a school. The school was also used for church and social gatherings. So they had the Garfield County Journal, began here in Loyal in 1887 and went till 1889. And the newspaper promoted the Upper Pawnee Valley. Post office was discontinued in 1899. I can tell you there's not much up in the northern part of Garfield County. Most of it's in the middle to the southern part. So as we leave Loyal, we'll head south to Collier, down to Essex, and then we'll check out another wildlife area. We're obviously in the area of where Eminence was, and this is where the town of Collier was. So it was the post office before Eminence in the area. So from 1883 to 1887, and then when Eminence made that run for the county seat, the people here kind of moved over there, and the post office closed in Collier. Well, I'd say this is probably an appropriate place to end this dry lake here, this wildlife area here in Finney County. I'd say it's a fitting end to our exploration of Garfield County, the former Garfield County. Pretty interesting, I would say. Now, there wasn't a whole lot to find today, although in Ravanna, that was really great, finding those couple old buildings and being able to go check those out. You know, Kalvesta had the most stuff left. So that's I guess, one place in the former county that's got a little bit going on still. But, you know, learn about the stories of the county seat and even a couple of the other communities that were here at the time is really fascinating. And to think that a county can exist for a while and then will just be up and gone and annexed into another county. I wonder if they wouldn't have had that feud over the county seat if it would still be a county. You know, it was so small because we explored most of it, driving around most of it. It's a very small county. I wonder if eventually they just would have annexed it into Finney County anyways, even if there was no dissension in the ranks. And maybe it would have taken longer, it would have taken a few more years. Or maybe it would have survived and been this little tiny county out in western Kansas and had a nice county seat, and it would be something for people to still explore and visit, and they would have some population. But there's not much out here, as you can see. I've shown you about everything I could find. Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it. I definitely did. And next time, I'll see you down a back road. Now that you made it to the end of that video, let me tell you about some of the extras on the channel. One of the things you can do is become a member. There are 3 levels of support. There's supporter, producer, and executive producer levels. All 3 have different levels of fun incentives and perks. If you haven't done so, please check out travelwiththewiseguy.com. There are lots of extras on there to explore. One of them is merchandise. We have Travel with the Wise Guy coffee mugs, Death Go Round t-shirts, hoodies, hats, and all sorts of fun things to show your support of this channel. Also on the website is a custom Google map. I've dropped pins in every place I've visited and linked the episode to each location. This seems to be a very popular feature for many of you. Also, sign up for my free newsletter that goes out about once a month. There are all sorts of links and tidbits on this page, old videos, podcasts, and just about everything I can think of I throw on the website. For all that information and more, go to travelwiththewiseguy.com. And now, the reason you're probably here, the outtakes. Cool mailbox. Not much out here. We're at the intersection. Intersection. Let's start that over. Kalvesta. Look at that monster. Got some interesting stuff here in Kalvesta at the church. The old slide. But this thing is large, like wide. Pretty heavy. Spins really well though. I mean, if you had some big people pushing that thing, you could have a lot of fun with a bunch of people. But you could weigh it down. You could probably put 50 people on that thing. I like it. Definitely for its largeness and the fact it spins pretty well, we're going to give it an 8.2.